Welcome. You are about to experience something different. This is not a book about clever comebacks, flawless presentations, or how to dominate a room with your voice. This is a book about a quiet, forgotten truth. The people who are truly heard, deeply heard, are often the ones who say the least. I'm going to take you on a journey into the lost art of communication. Not the loud, aggressive kind, but the kind that begins in silence, presence, and genuine connection. By the end, you'll know exactly how to make every word you do speak land with 10 times more power and how to be heard even before you open your mouth. So settle in, close your eyes if you like, and let's begin. Over the next 12 chapters you will learn how to build a presence that makes others feel safe and seen. The art of listening so deeply that people naturally want to hear you in return. The strategic use of silence as your most powerful communication tool. How to read the hidden signals in every conversation. How to align your inner world so that your words carry unshakable authenticity. And how to turn every interaction, from a chance meeting to a tense conflict, into a bridge rather than a battleground. You don't need to become someone else. You just need to rediscover what you've always known but forgotten. The art of being heard without saying a word. Let's begin Chapter 1. Chapter 1. The noise we mistake for communication. We live in an age of noise. Not just auditory noise and the ping of notifications, the scroll of endless feeds, but verbal noise. We talk, text, post, comment, pitch, persuade, explain, defend. We have confused talking with communicating, and that confusion is costing us our relationships, our influence, and our peace. Think about the last argument you had. Did you listen to understand, or did you merely wait for your turn to speak, mentally rehearsing your rebuttal while the other person was still talking? Be honest. Almost all of us do the latter, most of the time. Here's a hard truth. When you talk to be heard rather than listen to understand, you build a wall, not a bridge. And the more words you pile on that wall, the more the other person feels you are not with them. They stop hearing you. They start planning their escape, or their counterattack. I once worked with a client named James, a brilliant software developer who kept getting passed over for leadership roles. In meetings, he would talk at length about his ideas, his code, his reasoning. He was right, technically, most of the time, but people felt bulldozed. His boss told me, "James has all the answers, but no one wants to listen because they feel invisible around him." James was shocked. He thought communication was about transmitting data. He didn't realize that true communication begins with reception. We confuse communication with self-expression. Self-expression is one way. I speak, you hear. Communication is a dance. It happens in the space between people. And if you don't first create that space, a space of safety, attention, and mutual presence, your words will fall into a void, no matter how brilliant they are. So the first step in being heard without saying a word is to recognize the noise you carry into every conversation. The mental noise, the assumptions, the to-do lists, the urge to be right, the emotional noise, the need for approval, the fear of being misunderstood, the irritation you haven't dealt with. That noise makes you half present and the other person can feel it. They may not say it, but they know your mind is partly elsewhere. Let's do a quick exercise. I'll pause for a moment. Bring to mind a conversation you have coming up, maybe a check-in with a partner, a meeting with a colleague. Close your eyes and notice the mental chatter already forming. Are you already preparing what you're going to say? Are you anticipating their argument? Are you hoping for a certain outcome? Just notice. That's the noise. Now imagine entering that conversation with none of that noise. Just a clear, open attention. That is presence. That is the beginning of being heard. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to cultivate that presence until it becomes your natural state. A quiet power that people gravitate toward before you even speak. Chapter 2, The Power of Presence. Presence is a word we throw around loosely, but what does it really mean? Presence is the quality of being fully here now, without an agenda, without a script, without a mental escape route. When you are truly present with someone, you give them your entire self, your attention, your curiosity, your stillness. And that is a rare gift. The paradox. When you stop trying to be impressive, you become magnetic. Think of a time when someone was completely present with you. Maybe it was a grandparent who listened to your childhood stories with shining eyes. Maybe it was a friend who sat with you in silence while you grieved, asking nothing. just being there. How did you feel in their presence? Probably safe, valued, seen. And how did you feel about them? You likely trusted them more, opened up more easily, and here's the key. You probably wanted to hear what they had to say because they had first given you the gift of being heard. Presence is not a technique, it's a practice. It's something you cultivate moment by moment. It begins with your body. When you're with someone, notice your posture. Are you leaning in or turning away? Are your arms crossed or open? Is your breathing shallow or deep? Our bodies signal presence long before our mouths open. Try this now wherever you are. Place both feet flat on the ground. Let your shoulders drop. Take one slow breath in and a long, slow breath out. Feel the weight of your body settling. This simple act tells your nervous system, you are here, you are safe. You don't need to fight or flee. In this state, your mind quiets and your attention becomes available to the person in front of you. When you bring this kind of presence into an interaction, something remarkable happens. People feel it on an animal level. It's the opposite of the energy most people project. The I'm busy, I'm important, I'm elsewhere energy. Your stillness becomes a mirror in which they can see themselves more clearly. And because you're not filling the space with your own words, you leave room for them to be heard. After that, when you finally speak, your words carry the weight of that shared silence. There's a simple practice I call the 60-second arrival. Before you walk into any important conversation, whether it's dinner with your spouse or a high-stakes negotiation, pause for 60 seconds, don't check your phone. Don't rehearse. Just stand still, breathe, and set an intention. I am here to understand, not just to be understood. This micro-ritual shifts your entire nervous system from performance mode to connection mode. One executive I worked with began doing this before every meeting. He told me that within a month his team started describing him as calm, grounded, and someone you can really talk to. Nothing about his words changed. What changed was the space he created with his silence. Presence, however, is only half the equation. The next half is what you do with that presence, and it's not what you think. It's listening. But not just any listening. The kind of listening that transforms relationships. That's where we're heading next. Chapter 3. The Listening Revolution. If you take only one thing from this entire audiobook, let it be this. Listening is not waiting. It is not preparing. It is the active, disciplined practice of making someone else's words more important than your own thoughts for a few moments. Most of us have never been taught how to listen. We've been taught how to debate, how to persuade, how to impress. But listening, we assume it's a passive state. You just shut up and nod. That's not listening. That's just auditory presence. True listening is an act of radical curiosity. It means you are genuinely more interested in what the other person is experiencing than in what you think about it. You are not there to solve, judge, or fix. You are there to receive. I'll share a framework I use called the 3 layers of listening. Layer 1, factual listening. You hear the data, the dates, the numbers, the sequence of events. This is basic comprehension. It's necessary, but shallow. Layer 2, emotional listening. You listen for the feelings beneath the facts. What is this person feeling as they speak? Are they frustrated, hopeful, scared, proud? You might notice their voice cracking, a pause, a shift in pace. At this layer, you're not just a tape recorder, you're an empath. Layer 3, intentional listening. You listen for what the person really wants you to understand, even if they can't articulate it. What is the core need? Do they need validation, reassurance, respect, freedom? This is the deepest layer where you hear the unspoken plea beneath the words. Here's an example. Your partner comes home and says, I had the worst day. My boss completely ignored my presentation. At layer 1, you hear the event. Presentation ignored. At layer 2, you hear the emotion. Hurt, invisibility, perhaps anger. At layer 3, you hear the plea. I need to know that I matter, that I'm not invisible. If you respond with layer 1, well, what exactly did he say? You miss the point. If you respond with layer 3, that sounds deeply discouraging, especially when you put in so much work. I see how much you care. You've just made them feel profoundly heard, and they will hang on your next words because you've proven you get it. The listening revolution is a commitment to move through these layers in every significant interaction. It's hard at first because your mind will want to jump in with advice, counterpoints, or your own story. You must train it. Here's a practice. For the next 3 conversations you have, make a rule. You cannot speak until you can summarize not only what the person said, but what you sense they were feeling. You'll be amazed. People will start telling you things they never tell anyone. And they will start asking for your opinion. Why? Because you earned the right to be heard. Listening is the soil. Words are the seeds. Without the soil, the seeds blow away in the wind. With deep, fertile soil, even a small seed grows into something strong. Now, what is the sharpest tool for listening? It's not your ears, it's your questions. Chapter 4. The questions that unlock worlds. Questions are the keys to someone else's inner world. But most of us use tiny, rusty keys that barely turn. How are you? Fine. Did you have a good weekend? Yes. These questions close doors instead of opening them. To be heard without saying a word, you need to become a master asker, someone who uses questions not to interrogate, but to illuminate. The best questions are simple, open, and born from genuine curiosity. They don't begin with why in an accusatory tone. Why did you do that? They begin with what, how, or tell me. They invite expansion. Let me give you a few of the most powerful questions I've ever learned. Ones that have completely changed how people respond to me. What was that like for you? Instead of what happened. What's the most important part of this for you? How did that land with you? Tell me more about that. What's at stake for you here? Notice the shift. These questions don't ask for a report. They ask for the story, the meaning, the emotion. They communicate, I see you as a person, not a problem. There's an art to the follow-up too. When someone shares something, resist the urge to relate it to yourself immediately. Instead, go deeper into their world. If they say, I'm feeling overwhelmed, don't say, I know exactly how you feel. Last week That's hijacking. Say, what does overwhelmed feel like right now for you? You'll learn things you never expected. I want to teach you a special technique I call the gentle inquisition. It's a 3-step conversational micro-pattern that dissolves walls and creates instant rapport. 1. Acknowledge, I hear that, or that makes sense. Just a simple validation that you're tracking. Clarify, when you say X, do you mean? Or can you help me understand what Y looked like from your side? 3. Deepen, what's the heart of this for you, or what do you wish others understood about this? Used in sequence, these 3 steps pull someone into a safe, open space. They feel no judgment, only a gentle, kind curiosity. And as they open up, something else happens. They become deeply curious about you. They'll eventually turn the question around. And when they do, your words will land with an impact that 1,000 monologues could never achieve. There's a quiet companion to questions that we often overlook, something that terrifies most people but holds immense power. That is silence. Strategic, intentional silence. Let's step into it. Chapter 5. The silence that speaks volumes. Silence is the blank canvas on which communication is painted. Without silence, words become a messy, chaotic splatter. Yet we treat silence like a vacuum to be filled. In meetings, if there's a 3-second pause, someone jumps in. In conversations, we interrupt to avoid awkwardness. We've lost our comfort with the quiet. But here's what I've learned. Silence is not the absence of communication. It's a form of communication in itself. It can say, I'm thinking deeply about what you just said. It can say, I'm giving you space to continue. It can say, that mattered, and I'm letting it land. It can also say, with immense force, I don't need to fill this space with noise to prove my worth. There are 3 kinds of strategic silence you should master. Reflective silence. After someone finishes speaking, pause for 3 to 5 full seconds before you respond. In that silence, you honor their words. You also give yourself time to move past your reactive brain and into your wise brain. Most people fear this pause, and they think it signals disinterest. In truth, it signals depth. Next time, try it. Count slowly to 4. You'll find the other person often continues, offering something more real. And when you finally speak, your response is measured, considered, and powerful. Invitational silence. When someone is struggling to express something, don't rush to fill in their blanks. Stay present, keep your eyes soft, and wait. This silence says, I'm here. Take your time. It often unlocks tears, truths, or revelations that would have been buried under your helpful interruptions. Boundary silence. When someone is being aggressive or manipulative, silence can be a shield and a sword. Instead of defending or attacking, you simply look at them calmly, with neutral body language, and say nothing. This denies them the fuel they seek, your emotional reaction. It can completely diffuse a power play and shift the dynamic. You are heard not because you shouted, but because your silence refused to play the game. I once witnessed a negotiation where one party made an outrageous demand. The other party, a quiet, seasoned diplomat, simply leaned back, made eye contact, and said, nothing. For 12 seconds. 12 seconds of silence. The tension built and the demanding party began to backpedal, adding qualifiers, reducing the ask. The silence had done more than any counter-argument could. It had communicated strength, patience, and an unwillingness to be drawn into a fight. To use silence effectively, you must first become comfortable with it. Practice daily. Spend 5 minutes in complete silence, no devices, just being. Then in conversations, gradually increase your tolerance for pauses. You will feel an urge to fill the void. Let it pass. You are not being awkward, you are being deliberate. Now that we've explored silence, let's turn to something that speaks even when your mouth is closed. The language of your body, your energy, and the unspoken signals you emit every second. Chapter 6, Reading the Unseen. Every conversation is two conversations, the one with words and the one without. The words are the lyrics, the body, the tone, the rhythm, the micro-expressions. That's the music. And when the lyrics and the music don't match, people will always believe the music. To be heard without saying a word, you must become fluent in this nonverbal language, both in expressing it congruently and in reading it in others. Most people miss 90% of what's being said because they're only paying attention to words. You are going to be in the top 10%. Let's start with reading others. Here are some signposts to watch for. Shifts in energy. If someone suddenly becomes still or fidgety, something just shifted inside them. Their words might not change, but their body just told you the emotional landscape changed. Pay attention. Micro-expressions. Brief involuntary facial expressions that flash for a fraction of a second. A quick tightening of the lips can signal anger or disapproval before they cover it with a smile. A tiny eye widening can signal fear or surprise. Congruence versus incongruence. When someone says, I'm fine, but their arms are crossed, their jaw is tight, and they won't meet your eyes, believe the body. Gently, you can invite truth with a reflection like, you say you're fine, but I'm sensing something else. I'm here if you want to share. That acknowledges the unspoken and often dissolves the mask. Proximity and orientation. Feet pointed away, leaning back, creating physical barriers like a coffee cup held in front, are signs of disengagement or defense. Leaning in, open palms, and mirroring your posture signal connection. Now, what about your own nonverbal presence? You want to become a safe signal. Here's how. Soften your gaze. Instead of a hard, evaluative stare, let your eyes rest gently on the person with little shifts, as if you're taking in the whole scene. This signals openness. Uncross your arms and open your chest. This is a vulnerable posture that actually makes you feel calmer and signals you have nothing to hide. Match their pace, not their agitation. If someone is speaking rapidly in distress, don't match their speed. Speak a little slower, breathe visibly. Your calm physiology can regulate theirs through a process called limbic resonance. Use touch wisely. If appropriate, a light touch on the arm can convey empathy more powerfully than any phrase. But always be mindful of boundaries. When you learn to read the unseen, you become a keen observer of humanity. You start to see the hurt behind the bravado, the fear behind the anger, and you respond to that. Not just to the surface words, people will feel profoundly understood. They'll say things like, you get me, or, I don't know why I'm telling you all this. That's the music playing correctly. But reading others is only possible if you've done the inner work of understanding and managing your own emotional world. That's the foundation of empathy in action. Chapter 7, Empathy in Action. Empathy is often misunderstood as simply feeling sorry for someone. That's pity. True empathy is the ability to see the world through another's eyes and feel with them, while still holding your own center. It's the bridge across which all real communication travels. And here's what's crucial. Empathy is not agreement. You can deeply understand someone's fear without agreeing that their fear-based decision is wise. You can see the pain that drives someone's anger without condoning the behavior. This distinction frees you to listen without defensiveness. To put empathy into action, I practice something I call the empathy anchor. In any charged conversation, I silently anchor myself to 3 reminders. 1. This person's feelings are valid to them. Even if I don't share them, their emotional experience is real. 2. Their behavior is a clue, not the whole story. The anger is often a mask for hurt or fear. My job is not to fix, it's to connect. Connection is the real fix. Once anchored, I express empathy not through platitudes like, "I know how you feel," but through specific, tentative reflections. I might say, "It sounds like you're carrying a lot of pressure and feeling unsupported. Is that close?" That kind of reflective statement is gold. Even if I'm not exactly right, they'll correct me and we'll get closer. The very act of trying to understand disarms hostility. There's a deeper level of empathy that moves beyond words. I call it empathetic witnessing. Sometimes someone just needs you to be a witness to their pain, without trying to lighten it, fix it, or spiritualize it. When a colleague breaks down in frustration, instead of saying, "Don't worry, it'll be fine," you might just sit quietly, offer a tissue and say, "This is really hard. I'm here." That is a profound communication of being heard. You haven't said a single solution-oriented word, and yet you have said everything. Empathy in action also means taking what you perceive in the unseen and bringing it into the open gently. I noticed you paused when I mentioned the deadline. What came up for you? That kind of gentle observation shows you're paying exquisite attention. It makes people feel seen. When you lead with empathy, you build a deep reservoir of trust. And here's the beautiful reciprocity. Once people feel your empathy, they become deeply receptive to your perspective. They want to hear your voice because your voice now lives in a space of safety. They will ask you, "What do you think?" And your words, carefully chosen, will have 10 times the impact. Next, we'll look at the alignment that makes all this sustainable. The inner orchestra you must conduct so that your presence, empathy, and words are all playing the same note. Chapter 8. Aligning your inner orchestra. You can learn all the techniques in the world, but if your internal state is chaotic, your communication will leak anxiety, neediness, or incongruence. People will sense that your words are a performance. To be heard without saying a word, you must first align what's happening inside you. Think of yourself as an orchestra. Your mind is the strings, your heart is the brass, your body is the percussion, your spirit is the woodwinds. When they are all playing the same piece, the music is powerful. When they're not, when your mind is saying, "Be confident," but your heart is pounding with fear, the result is dissonance, and people feel it. The inner alignment has 4 key sections. Intentions. Before any important interaction, get clear on your deepest intention. Not your surface goal, get them to agree, but your core intention. Maybe it's to foster collaboration, to leave this person feeling respected regardless of outcome, or to understand fully before proposing anything. Write it down or whisper it to yourself. This intention becomes your North Star. When the conversation goes sideways, return to it. It keeps you from being hijacked by emotion. 2. Emotional regulation. You can't be present if you're emotionally flooded. Learn to recognize when your own buttons are being pushed. When you feel heat rising, use a technique called the pause and label. Internally pause and silently label your emotion. Anger is here. Fear is present. Labeling creates a tiny gap between you and the emotion, activating the prefrontal cortex and calming the amygdala. In that gap, you can choose your response rather than react. 3. Body-mind harmony. As we touched on in presence, your posture affects your internal state. Before a difficult talk, adopt a powerful vulnerability stance. Feet grounded, shoulders back, but heart open, palms visible. Breathe slowly. This tells your brain, "I am capable and I am safe." Your voice will come out steadier, and your silence will feel confident, not timid. 4. Self-compassion. The hidden saboteur of communication is self-criticism. If you mess up, if the conversation goes badly, your inner critic will launch a tirade. That noise will follow you into the next interaction. Practice a quick self-compassion break. Put your hand on your heart and say to yourself, "This is hard, I'm doing my best. May I be kind to myself in this moment." This isn't self-indulgence, it's clearing the fog so you can be present for the next person. When these four elements are aligned, your silence becomes peaceful, your questions become pure, and your words become congruent. People sense the integrity. They trust you because there's nothing hidden. And in that trust, you are heard even before you speak. Now, with your inner orchestra tuned, let's talk about something that separates good communicators from truly great ones: timing.
Chapter 9, The Art of Timing. In communication, timing isn't everything. It's the only thing. The most beautiful words, spoken at the wrong moment, become noise or even harm. The simplest phrase, offered at the right moment, becomes a life raft. Being heard without saying a word is as much about knowing when to speak as it is about how. Timing involves three levels: the conversation flow, the emotional readiness, and the environmental context. Level 1, the rhythm of conversation. Every conversation has a natural rhythm of speaking and silence, of building and releasing. Learn to feel it. Are you jumping in during someone's vulnerable pause, cutting off their unfolding thought? Or are you waiting until they've fully landed their point and then pausing to let it settle? The rhythm killer is interruption. Most interruptions aren't malicious. They're born of excitement or anxiety. Train yourself to let the other person's sentence finish. Let the quiet breathe, and only then contribute. You'll become known as someone who gets the flow, and people will hang on your contributions because they're rare and well-placed. Level 2, emotional readiness. Don't offer solutions when someone is in the middle of an emotional storm. The brain literally can't process logic when flooded with emotion. That's not the time for your brilliant insight. It's the time for presence and validation. Wait for the storm to pass. How do you know it's passed? The person's breathing slows, their shoulders drop, they might sigh. That's your window. You might say, "I have a thought that might help," but only if you're ready for it. By asking permission, you honor timing and dramatically increase the chance your words will be received. Level 3, the container. Be mindful of setting. A public critique in a group meeting is a bad time. A private one-on-one walk is a good time. Late at night when you're both exhausted is a bad time. A calm morning coffee is a good time. Timing includes choosing when to initiate a conversation. If you need to be heard about a difficult topic, you can say, "I have something important to share with you. When would be a good time for you to be able to really listen?" This simple question transforms the dynamic. You're not springing it on them. You're inviting them into a timed container where you'll both be ready. I witnessed a master of timing, a palliative care doctor, who never said the right words until the patient was ready. She would enter a room, read the body, feel the silence, and often just hold a hand. One time, a patient was raging at the unfairness of their illness. The doctor said nothing for nearly 10 minutes, just nodded, stayed present. Then the rage subsided into tears. Only then did she say gently, "It is so profoundly unfair. And you don't have to face it alone." Those words, spoken at that exact moment, were seismic. If she had said them during the rage, they would have been lost.
You can apply this in everyday life. Next time someone is upset, wait, listen. Let the wave crest and break. Then after a few breaths, ask, "What do you need most right now?" Your timing will make that simple question an act of love. When you combine timing with storytelling, you can move people without even raising your voice. Let's explore that. Chapter 10, Storytelling Without Words. Stories are the operating system of human connection. But we tend to think storytelling means a well-structured narrative with a beginning, middle, and end, delivered verbally. That's only one kind of storytelling. The most powerful stories are often told without a single word. How? Through presence, through shared experience, through being a living example. When you embody a story, you become the message. Consider this. A leader who calmly works alongside their team during a crisis without issuing directives tells a story of solidarity and calm. A friend who shows up at the hospital in the middle of the night and just sits in the chair tells a story of loyalty. A parent who puts down their phone and watches their child's dance recital with shining eyes tells a story of love. These are wordless narratives that shape how people perceive you more deeply than any verbal story. But there's also a way to invite storytelling from others that makes you extraordinarily heard. Become a collector of stories. Ask, What's a moment that shaped who you are? Or, tell me about someone who believed in you. Then listen with your whole body, as we've practiced. You don't need to tell your own story and return immediately. By pulling out their story, you create a bond. And in the shared silence that follows, your empathy becomes the response. They feel so heard that they'll remember you as a great conversationalist, even though you barely spoke. For those times when you do want to use a verbal story, the secret is in the delivery, not just the plot. Lower your voice slightly. Slow your pace. Use pauses. Let the silence between the sentences do the heavy lifting. A well-told story punctuated by silence feels like a gift. It creates a shared bubble of attention that is being heard on another level. Now let's take everything we've learned into the arena where communication matters most, the difficult conversations. Chapter 11. Difficult Conversations Transformed. This is the testing ground. It's relatively easy to be present, listen, and use silence when everything is fine. But when someone is attacking you, blaming you, or shutting down, your nervous system screams fight or flee. Your old patterns hijack you. You either flood with words or retreat into icy silence. That's not the artful silence we've practiced. That's defensive muteness. The principles we've covered can transform a difficult conversation from a battlefield into a turning point, if you apply them with discipline. Let's walk through a framework I call the bridge sequence, specifically for conflict. Imagine your partner says, "You never listen to me." You're always on your phone. Your whole body tenses. You want to defend, list examples of when you did listen, counterattack. Don't. Step 1. Anchor in presence. Ground your feet. Breathe. Silently label your rising defensiveness. Defensiveness is here. That little pause saves you from reaction. Step 2. Listen to the unseen. Behind "you never listen" is a plea. "I miss you. I feel unimportant. I need connection." Hear that? Let their words wash over you, not as accusations, but as clumsy expressions of a real need. Step 3. Silence as a bridge. Don't respond immediately. Let a full, calm silence hang for 4 seconds. This signals that you're not just reflexively countering, you're digesting. That silence alone diffuses some of their charge. Step 4. Empathy first. Your first words should be a reflection. It sounds like you're feeling really unheard and alone. That must be painful. Notice, you haven't agreed or disagreed with the accuracy. You've validated the feeling. This validation is oxygen to a suffocating flame. Step 5. Permission to speak. Then you can add, "Can I share what's happening on my side?" By asking, you respect their agency. They've been heard. Now they're often ready to hear you. I've seen this sequence turn screaming matches into tears of relief. I've used it in corporate warfare, marital breakdowns, and family feuds. It's not magic, it's just the rigorous application of the art of being heard without saying a word, even under fire. One client, a CEO facing a revolt from her board, used a version of this. She sat through a brutal meeting where directors accused her of poor leadership. She stayed present, took notes, asked clarifying questions, and didn't defend herself once. At the end, after a long silence, she said, "I hear that you've lost trust in my direction. I'm committed to rebuilding it, but I need to understand your vision first." The room shifted. The next meeting, they built a plan together. Her silence under attack had been the most powerful statement of strength they'd ever seen from her. Difficult conversations are not the enemy. They're the deepest invitations to practice the art. Now let's bring it all home in the final chapter. Becoming the person everyone wants to listen to. Chapter 12. Becoming the person everyone wants to listen to. We've come a long way. By now you understand that being heard is not about volume, vocabulary, or dominance. It's about the quality of presence you bring, the depth of your listening, the wisdom of your questions, the strength of your silence, the alignment of your inner world, and the grace of your timing. The final shift is an identity shift. You are not just learning a set of skills, you are becoming a certain kind of person, someone whose very being invites trust, someone to whom others naturally turn, someone whose words, when spoken, carry a weight that lingers. What does that person look like in daily life? They are the one who walks into a room and doesn't need to be the center of attention, yet often becomes it because their quiet confidence is so palpable. They are the one who, in a heated debate, doesn't raise their voice, and yet everyone leans in to hear them. They are the friend you call when your world falls apart, because you know they'll listen without fixing. And after you've poured out your heart, a few simple words from them will change your week. They are the leader whose team feels seen, whose feedback is cherished because it's given with such care and timing. To become that person, you must commit to a practice, not a performance. Here's a simple daily regimen. Morning intention, 2 minutes. Before you engage with the world, sit quietly and ask, who will I need to truly listen to today? What presence do I want to bring? Micro pauses. Throughout the day, take 3 conscious breaths before entering a conversation. Drop your shoulders, open your awareness. Evening reflection, 5 minutes. At night, revisit a conversation. Ask, did I listen to understand or to respond? Where did I fill the silence that could have been held? What did I learn about the other person's world? Do this without judgment, as a curious scientist. Weekly silent practice. Spend 15 minutes a week in complete, intentional silence. No devices, no books, just being. Let silence become your friend. Over time, you'll notice a shift. People will begin to say things like, I don't know why I feel so calm around you. Or you always seem to know what to say, even though you feel you're speaking less. The truth is, they're not responding to your words. They're responding to your presence. And there's a final secret I want to leave you with. The ultimate way to be heard without saying a word is to live your communication. Let your life be a consistent message. Keep your promises. Show up on time. Be kind when no one is watching. Integrity is the loudest silence there is. When people know your character, they hear your words with a trust that cannot be manufactured. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room. You don't need to have the perfect elevator pitch or the most polished stories. You just need to be fully here, fully human, with a heart that's open and a mind that's curious. That is the art of being heard without saying a word. And so we reach the end of our time together. But this is not the end, it's the beginning. Tomorrow you will have a dozen opportunities to practice. One conversation at a time, one pause at a time, one deep listening at a time. You will discover a new power. Not the power to dominate, but the power to connect. Thank you for walking this path with me. Now go into your world with a little more silence, a little more presence, and watch how the world starts to lean in. Until we meet again, be quiet and be heard. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss future videos.